Hello everyone, I'm Yogesh Mishra. Today I want to clear one of the biggest confusion in modern Angular. Should you use signals or RxJS? A lot of developers try to force everything into signals while others still create a behavior subject for every piece of state. In this video, I'll give you a clear and practical rules so you know exactly when signals are the better choice, when RxJS is still better, and how you can mix both cleanly. So let's get started. Here's what we are going to cover today. First, we will understand the core difference between signals and RxJS, which is basically pull versus push. Then I'll show you the situations where signals clearly win. After that, we will look at the cases where RxJS is still the better tool. We'll also go through side-by-side examples, a simple decision checklist you can use every day, and the common mistakes that people still make. By the end of this video, you will have a clear mental model for choosing the right tool. The most important idea to understand is this: signals are pull and RxJS is push. With signals, you read the value only when you need it. They are synchronous by nature, which makes them perfect for component state. You can easily create derived values using computed, and you never have to manage subscriptions. On the other hand, with RxJS, values are pushed to you over time. They are streams, so they work really well for events and anything that happens over time. You also get powerful operators like debounce and switch map, but you do have to manage subscriptions yourself. Once you clearly understand this pull versus push difference, half of your decisions become automatic. So when should you actually use signals? Use them for almost all component state. Things like is open, selected, or current tab. They are also perfect for derived values such as full name, filtered list, or total price. For forms, signal forms are now the recommended approach. Inputs and outputs in modern Angular are already signal based with input, model, and output. For simple HTTP results, HTTP resource already give you signals. Even loading and error flags work well with signals as long as they are not coming from a continuous stream. The simple rule is that if you are just storing and reading a value, use a signal. Now let's look at when RxJS is still the better choice. Use RxJS when you have events that happens over time, such as key up, scroll, or drag events. It is also the right tool when you need debounce, throttle, or distinct until changed, which is very common in search as you type features. Whenever you need to handle race conditions, operators like switch map and exhaust map make RxJS shine. The same is true when you need to combine multiple streams using combine latest or fork join. For WebSockets or any long-lived real-time feed, RxJS is still the natural choice, and for complex async flows that involve retry or backoff logic, RxJS remains more powerful. The simple rule here is if values arrive over time and you need operators, go with RxJS. Let's take a simple counter example. With signals, the code is clean and short. You just create a count signal, create a double value using computed, and update the count inside the increment method. If you try to do the same thing with RxJS, you need a behavior subject, then you apply map, and then you either use the async pipe or manage a subscription yourself. Plus, you have to think about unsubscribing For pure state like a counter, signals are clearly the better and simple choice. Using RxJS here is unnecessary overkill. Now look at a search as you type example. This is where RxJS still wins. You take the value changes observable and add debounce time distinct until changed with and a switch map to call the API. With this approach, you get debouncing and automatic request cancellation for free. If you try to achieve the same behavior using only signals, you end up re-implementing those time-based operators yourself, which is not worth the effort. So whenever your logic is time-based, RxJS is still the better and more practical tool. Bridging both. The good news is that you don't have to choose only one. Angular gives you clean ways to bridge both worlds. toSignal lets you turn any observable into a signal, and toObservable lets you turn a signal into an observable. The best pattern for something like search is to use RxJS for the hard part, such as debounce and switch map, and then convert the final result into a signal using toSignal. In the template, you simply read the signal. This way, you get the power of RxJS where it is needed and the simplicity of signals where you consume the data. Whenever you are unsure which tool to use, just ask yourself these 5 simple questions. Is this just a component state? Then use a signal. Do you need a derived or computed value? Use a signal with computed. Is it a stream of events over time? Then use RxJS. Do you need debounce, switch map, or retry? Again, use RxJS. Are you only reading HTTP data? Then HTTP resource is the best option. If you follow this small checklist regularly, most of the confusion around signals versus RxJS will disappear. Common mistakes. There are still a few common mistakes I see people making. Many developers create a behavior subject just for simple UI state when a plain signal would be much cleaner. Some people put effects everywhere instead of relying on computed values and template binding. Others try to build debounce logic using set timeout and signals, which is usually a sign that RxJS would be a better fit. Putting all application state into one large RxJS store is another frequent mistake. Local state is much better kept in signals. Finally, many developers ignore toSignal and toObservable completely, even though these two helpers make it easy to mix both worlds cleanly. Avoid these mistakes will keep your code much simpler and more maintainable. Just remember these 4 practical rules. First, default to signals for state, forms, derived values, and simple HTTP data. Second, reach for RxJS only when you actually need time-based behavior, events, or complex operators. Third, bridge the two worlds freely. Use toSignal and toObservable whenever it makes sense. Fourth, never force yourself to use only one tool. Both signals and RxJS are first class citizens in modern Angular, and the best code bases use each of them where they fit naturally. Let me quickly share what I actually use in real projects today. For component state, I use signals. For forms, I use Signal Forms. For HTTP reads, I use HTTP resource. For search or type ahead features, I use RxJS, and then convert the result with toSignal. For WebSocket feeds, I stay with RxJS. For derived UI value, I use computed, and for route parameters, I use input together with signals. This combination has worked very well for me and keeps the code base clean and easy to maintain. So let's quickly recap. Signals are pull, RxJS is push. You should default to signals for most state related work. Reach for RxJS when you are dealing with streams and time based logic. Bridge the two freely whenever you need to, and most importantly, don't fight the tools. Keep the things simple. Mental model. You will make much better decisions in your daily work with this mental model. Use the right tool for the job and stop the confusion. Signals for state, RxJS for streams, and bridge them when needed. If you found this video helpful, please like it, share it with your team, and subscribe to the channel. I'll keep bringing more practical Angular deep dives every week, or maybe today or tomorrow. I'm Yogesh Mishra, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.